Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to all of you. Um, Good night to some of you. For some of you, it's early morning, especially those of our friends, our brothers, and our sisters in Asia. Um, it is probably early morning or sometimes in the afternoon there to where you are. We want to welcome all of you to SKTV. Today is Friday, the 4th of March, 2022. We want to welcome you. Welcome our viewers, our listeners, our followers from around the world. Welcome to all of you. Um, Today is the continuation. As you can see the topic and you are already aware. Last week we started off with this conversation, mental health and wellness, but we started to talk about autonomy, shame, um, and doubt. We started talking about it last week. Today we want to continue from where we stopped. Um, we will encourage you to share the show. Today we're going to talk more about the brain and how the brain works and how it functions. Yes, today I'm wearing another hat. Most Hamburg is actually wear hat, but I'm wearing another hat. But yes, we're going to talk about how the brain functions. We're going to talk about what's happening in the minds of children. Now, some people have reached out to me and they want us to just jump to the nitty gritty. They want us to just overlook the basics and just jump to what's happening in current time. But that's not how it works. What's happening with the adults? What happening to the grown up? Why are they acting the way they're acting? But I want to be clear before we play the music and share the show. That's not how it works. You have to know the fundamentals. You have to know the basics. You have to know how everything starts. You do. You definitely have. You have to know. And so, yes, we can just jump to that to grown-ups, but you have to know where everything started or how it started. People don't just come in public and act the way they act. They don't just behave the way they behave. There is a history. There is a record, whether they were on record or not. There is something we call precipitating factors. There are other things that happened before they got to this stage. So things build up. So you will see that these different things, we have to unveil them. We have to bring them out. We have to talk about them. We have to educate people about them. We have to inform people about them so that people can, understand the basics. That's why we are starting where we're starting. We're starting with the 8 stages of growth and human development. We started to talk about. Today we are on the 2nd stage. We are finishing up. Last week we had a privilege to have a friend, my friend Mimu, who talked about her book, talked about childhood sexual trauma, the book that she wrote, very good book. We talked about it. We asked a lot of questions about the book. I'm hoping and praying that some of you bought the book. Some of you already have it. You're reading it to yourselves, to your children, and so forth. So today we're going to pick up because we didn't end last week's lessons. So we're going to pick up from where we stopped last week to go further in today for you to understand how the brain works and how many percent of how much of your brain is developed at a certain age. And during those stages when things happen, why is it that it affects you lifelong? Let's say, for example, these few days, we heard about a little girl that was violated, the impact of that for the rest of her life. You will see how the brain works and how when certain thing is done to the brain, how it can alter, how it can change a lot of things. We'll also talk about the different parts of the brain, like the frontal lobe. We'll talk about, different parts of the brain so that you can understand these different things. You can understand the roles and importance of your brain and how it functions. Then you will see why people are acting the way they are acting in public, sometimes in private, and so forth. You will get to discover some of these things. So let's share the show. This is basically some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. We do intend to have to have you involved, to get you involved. We will recognize one or two people once we start sharing. After we share the show, I already see my begin D credits here. Anybody let know they let attention. Anytime you show and let me know, recognize it. Begin, I got you. Don't relax. I know where you left, so I already got it. Well, welcome to the show. Again, let me make some disclaimer here. This is not a counseling session, just so you're aware. If you need any help, it's okay to seek help. Let us know. We can either contact your local authorities. We can give you resources to reach to your local authorities, the state that you're in, to seek help. It's okay to seek help, and your information will be protected and confidential. This is also not a place for us to talk politics, please. Please and please. We've tried to keep this conversation non-political as much as possible, because the issue of mental health, psychological issue, and so forth has nothing to do with opposition versus ruling party, sedition versus non-seditions, or this communist people, ANC versus Liberty Party or Unity Party or Musa Ability. It has nothing to do with that. It doesn't matter who you are. So we want to focus the conversation specifically on the topic, please. So please, no politics. You want to talk politics, wait for tomorrow. No politics on this show. We're begging you, no politics. We don't entertain politics. We do not. If you write political stuff, we have no option but to delete it, political stuff. Also, here is not a place that we come and bring drama and noise. We try to respect everybody as much as possible, and everyone has the right to disagree with us. Please come with your opinion. Come with your suggestions. The conversations here are educational. They're not debatable. They're fact-based, scientific-based. So if you want to debate, that's fine. We can let you to debate and argue with yourself. We're not arguing with you. It's not going to happen ever on here. If you don't believe in what we're saying, or you don't believe what we're saying, that's fine too. We agree. Everybody will not agree with us. But we want to welcome all of you. Here is not a place where you insult other people, denigrate other people. As soon as we see you, we delete your comment. We'll remind you to not do that, please. Please and please. So here is a peaceful ground, and we want to welcome all of you, both males and females. You have the right to share the show too. Nothing we say here is targeted to anybody. It's not personal. If you ever choose to say you want to call in on the show, or you want to call whatever information you put out on this show, we take no responsibility of it. We're not responsible for it. It's not our role to protect your privacy here, to say, oh, don't say that one, don't say that one. If you say anything here, you'll be held liable for your own statements that you make here, just so you know. So if you come here and talk about your personal life, it's on you. You take full responsibility of that. So thank you. We'll play one music really quick. Right after that music, that song, we'll play a video. The video is about 2-3 minutes long. We'll play a video. Right after the show, we'll play a video. And I want you to listen to that video. I want you to listen to the show, to it. Very, very, listen to what was it. Let's play. So in the meantime, let's play one song really quick, and we will be back. We will no copyright to the song that we'll be playing. We will no copyright to any video that we play here, as well as for educational purposes and information. So Facebook, please do not block us. Do not mute our video or our show. This is for educational and information purposes. And we'll see you when we get back.
You don't even know my story. You don't even know your story. Oh yeah, you know, on the beat, I be a loca. So moral. You post a new car on Facebook, but that's so la la. You working better. Bluffing and acting jealous, say you photo. My advice for you in my way, I got to confess. Confession. You gotta confess. You must have the impression. Enjoyment, got your blessing. Enjoyment, no more stressing. Enjoyment, got your blessing. Enjoyment, no more stressing.
It's never gonna be another man trash, just another man treasure. Another man fool, was another man poison. got your code according to your measurement. Got your code according to your measurement. The player ain't get rich, and the play you go there. Just because of impression, impression, fake impression, impression, yeah. You don't even know my story, or you want to share my glory, oh yeah. Hey, baby, you my way, oh, way, oh, Zangale. Hey, baby, you my way, oh, way, oh, Zangale. Hey, baby, touch you, my way, oh, way, oh.
Enjoyment, enjoyment, got your blessing. Enjoyment, enjoyment, no more stressing. Enjoyment, enjoyment, got your blessing. Enjoyment, enjoyment, no more stressing. Jeje, jeje, the hammer you driving a thing to keke, keke. This a ballin'. The thing that we talking, they must stay right here. Stop spoiling my me. I'm living my life, oh. See, I'm living my life, oh. David tell you, hey, oh, hey, oh. David hold you, hey, oh, hey, oh. David hate you, hey, oh, hey, oh. David tell you, hey, oh. You don't even know my story. Enjoyment, enjoyment.
Oh my God, you're cute.
Enjoyment, enjoyment, no more stressing. Enjoyment, enjoyment, got your blessing. Enjoyment, enjoyment, no more stressing.
Well, enjoyment, no more stressing. Are your blessing. Well, folks, before we get into the conversation here really quick, I'd like to make sure I play a video. I want you to listen to this video very attentively, and then right after that, we will be getting into the conversation. Listen to this video. It's about maybe 4 or 5 minutes long, and pay keen attention to what is being said here about children, because all of us were children, and maybe some of the things that are happening, maybe it's from our childhood. You never know. So let's listen to this video very carefully, especially now as parents. And some people want to be parents. Some people are expecting to be parents in the next few weeks or months or years or so forth. Listen to this video.
What are my hopes for her future? I think what's most important to me is that she's healthy and happy.
I want them to be responsible and respectful and successful.
Curious about the world, someone who loves learning.
To give back to her community.
I want my child to have the opportunity to follow his dream, whatever that is.
I am really very open about what they want to be in the future. I want them to be whatever they want to be.
Every child deserves the chance to reach their full potential. And as science continues to advance our understanding of child development and of the human brain, we know that the seeds of a healthy, successful life are planted in the early years. From day one, babies are born learning. Their brains are growing and developing at an amazing rate. In the first 5 years, faster than any other time in life. And how a child's brain develops in these early years will have a huge and lasting impact on their future. At birth, a baby brain is only a quarter of the size of an adult brain, but will double in size during the first year. By age 3, it will grow to almost 80% of adult size, and 90% by the time a child starts kindergarten. And while the brain is growing in size, it's also forming billions of connections. These connections between brain cells are what really make the brain work. And as the child grows and develops, the brain cells connect with each other in more complex ways. Different areas are responsible for different abilities, but they're all interconnected. They all contribute to the child's overall health and well-being. These early brain connections set the stage for higher-level skills to develop later on, like motivation, focus, problem solving, and getting along with others. things that really make a difference in a person's ability to learn and do well in school and in life. The first few years of life are the best opportunity to develop this network of brain connections. It's much harder later on. Connections that are used more often become stronger, while those that are not used are eventually eliminated, making the brain more efficient. Building brain connections is like building muscles. Use it or lose it. But these vital connections are not made automatically. They don't just happen. So how does healthy brain development happen? Through positive, stable, nurturing relationships with parents and caring adults. Study after study shows that caring interaction, stimulation, and love during their first few days, weeks, months, and years help a child feel safe and secure and help their brain develop a strong, healthy network of connections. Unfortunately, the opposite is also true. Neuroscience shows the dramatic impact of persistent negative experiences and toxic stress. Fewer brain connections develop, and at a slower rate. They also reinforce negative brain connections. Too many of Arizona's youngest kids face the kind of challenges that make it difficult for healthy brain development, like hunger and neglect. The evidence is clear. Positive, nurturing experiences in their early years help children feel safe and secure and go on to be healthier and more successful in school and in life. They tend to have better language, math, and social skills. They're more likely to graduate. They're more prepared for college and career, and to be contributing members of their communities. And that's why Arizonans created First Things First, to partner with families and communities to support the health, development, and learning of our state's youngest children. First Things First supports programs focused on strengthening families, quality early education, and preventive health for children from birth to age 5. Because we all share the responsibility of giving our children a good start in life. And we all benefit when kids arrive at kindergarten healthy and ready to succeed. Their success will be our success.
I'm just really excited for his future.
It's amazing to watch him develop into a complete, independent little human.
I hope she changes the world. That's the ultimate goal, right?
Okay, well, thank you for staying and sticking with us, as always. That was very short but informative to some extent. Let's move into the conversation. Last week, we introduced you to that young guy in a refrigerator. We talked last week about, just briefly to recap, we talked about what does mental health means. We told you, you've been aware, and we'll continue to repeat ourselves and say these things. Just to go back quick to the video before we move forward, hunger, neglect, abuse, lack of love, and so forth, you will see that it can affect the growth of children. One thing, as I watched that video and I listened to what was said, is positive, stable, nurturing, and caring environment can help the brain connect for children. Let me say this to you. This is no disrespect to anyone. This is no to call out anyone. Most of the troubles we see in grown-ups, some of them, maybe most of them, for the most part, are started to some extent either from the younger time. Stability is critically important. Remember when we talk in the very first time about, we talk about, trust versus mistrust. We talk about how it was very important for parents to be involved in a children's life and help them make decisions and keep them in a safe environment and so forth. So yes, the young guy you see in the refrigerator over there, in the freezer, like we'll call it in Liberia, the young guy you see over there, 3 years or so forth, I will tell you in a little bit why he's there and why they do what they do. They will do those things. But one of the most important things we have to understand today is how the brain works. So You didn't just born. You could have born a naturally smart child, but if that child is not careful and they're not nurtured and so forth, guess what happened? Like the video said earlier, they're going to lose those connections. They are going to lose those connections. They are. So it's our responsibility as parents, it's part of our responsibilities to ensure that we're creating these safe environments and so forth for the children, for them to be part of it, for them to navigate. But let's move forward. We told you about this guy. You've seen him. You will be seeing him almost every week until we can finish with his first 8 sessions. You will be seeing him. Eric Erickson, most of you know about him, the 8 stages of life, growth and development, or psychosocial development. You'll be hearing about him a lot, seeing him a lot. Please don't get tired with him. These are the 8 stages. We talked the other time about having a child, the importance of what you should do. Today, we're focusing on how the child's brain grows, how it develops, how our brain grew. What happened? Some of you can remember as far back as 5 years old, some of the things that happened because of your memory capacity, the storage, or the event, or so forth. You might not be able to recall vividly. You might not be able to say words for words, but at least your brain can store some of this information and maybe some of the images. Yes, it is still possible. Some people's brain can do that. Some people, their brain have either kept those information or is stored in a place where in other things clogged out or clogged them out that they can't really recall it and so forth. And so, yes, it is possible that your brain will be able to do that. So the brain can do a lot of things. And that's why we will focus on the brain in this session. Today's topic is, as you can see on there, is autonomy, shame versus doubt. We're going to talk about how these things work, how shame, autonomy versus doubt come about. First of all, we want to know what this word autonomy is, what it really means. What is a big word, but what that word autonomy means. So autonomy pretty much it means developing independence. Let me put it that way. Let me put it the simplest way. Whether it's your emotional independence, whether it's your behavioral independence or your cognitive independence, is the ability to develop independence. That's why when you go back into the video, you will see that this guy here, this guy in the fridge, probably his mom or his pa not around. They're not around. So he decided what he been seeing his mom and his pa doing in that fridge or what they been going there for. He said he wanted to try it because when they reach that age, they want to develop something we call autonomy. Or they want to develop autonomy. They want to develop independence. So they will try things that they've seen you doing. They will try things that they will see you doing. That's why it's important as a grown-up, you do not introduce your children or show them certain things. So let's take, for example, one of the things your children will try at that age when they're very, very young. They will try to smoke the hookah that you left, or the cigarette that you left, or the weed that you left. They will pick it up and smoke it. They will take the liquor bottle and drink from that liquor bottle. They don't know. They don't understand. But they're starting to want to make decisions either on their own, which is autonomy. They're starting to want to do things by themselves. They want to try different things, so they follow your steps. They follow what you do. They listen to what you say, even though they might not understand to be able to interpret. So this guy decided one day, he said, his mom, that day, his mom was sleeping because his mom can store his bottle in this fridge. His mom can store the bottle in that fridge. He knows that where the milk can come from. So guess what? He climbed in the fridge and decided that he will go there and get the milk. So he got stuck. So he's there. Good. Let's move forward. So that's what autonomy is. That's what autonomy is. Autonomy means basically they're developing things on their own. So let's take, for example, for those of you who are involved with whether politics or whatever, they'll say autonomy agency, or other agency will say they want autonomy. Where is autonomous agency? What it simply means is the independent agency by themselves. So the same applies here. So at that age, you will start to understand that the children would start to develop autonomy. Again, please get that clear. Sometimes you hear them saying terrible 2, terrible 3. Some children start early on. They're very hard-headed. They're very inquisitive. They want to definitely do everything they can. They want to check on everything. So that's all that big word means, autonomy. That's what it means. It means independence. They want to try things. They want to look up things by themselves. They want to look into things by themselves. So that means when you start to kiss in front of them, guess what happened? They're wondering what you are doing. Don't be surprised if they see somebody or they see a little girl or they see somebody, they start to want to do what you did. And at this age, children are learning very fast because the brain is expounding, it's growing, they're learning very fast. They take different information at once. Very, very, very fast. They take what they see, they take what they hear, they take what they look at. That's why things that you'll see that will be attracted to a certain TV show. They want to watch a certain show. They want to watch a certain cartoon. They want to do certain things over. They're just all over the place. You can't keep up with the energy. The brain is moving very fast at this stage. But also at this stage, you also develop shame and doubt. So that means, in other words, if you the parent and the shame and doubt come here, things that they also do in this autonomy stage, they learn how to express themselves, whether that's through running, through throwing of stuff. They want to walk, they want to talk, they give you a hard time, they spoil all your things, they go to mess up your makeup for the mother. I've heard some funny stories. The children go and pour water in there. So some of you, for the mothers, you even see your children going and taking your nail polish and doing their nails. Yes, as young as they are, they're watching. Some of them will even act or react what you've done. They'll put your wig on. They will. They'll put water in your makeup. They'll spoil your things. They will spoil your things. And you come, sometimes you're very mad. You're upset at what they've done. But at this stage, as you see on here, they're learning. They're learning a lot of different things. They're also expressing themselves. You can tell, they're expressing themselves. But then the question becomes now, what is our role as parents at this stage? Our role is to guide them. Our role is to serve as guardians. You serve as the protector. You serve as, somebody who will direct them into the right thing, but you also serve as correcting them. Like, hey, this thing is not right. Now, if you need to spank the butt just more, that would be a decision. I'm not here to say do it or not do it. But use the safest guidance and corrective means as possible to help your child, to redirect your child. It is very important that you do that. You do not let them continue to do the wrong thing. No, don't do it out of, don't do it say, oh, you love them, oh, the child. No, don't do that. Don't get a child using F words at that age because they heard it on TV, because you've been watching Maury or Jerry Springer or all these dramatic housewife and other things, movies or TV show or this reality TV show, or you watching all these Facebook Live where they're just drama, and you see them doing this, repeating the same thing because they're listening to you. You think they're not paying attention, they're listening, they're copying, and they start to use some of these words, and you just let them use it. No, you need to correct them. You can't use those words. These are bad words. You can't use bad words. You can't say these. You can't say that. But also, while saying that too, you can have them around those things that you've chosen to do. Also, at this stage, you want to give them independence. If they don't want to braid their head, I know that your children, if they don't want to braid their head, and maybe one of your fantasy or one of your thought is, you always wanted to be braiding guy's hair, or you are attracted to a guy who braids hair, please don't be braiding the hair. If you're attracted to people who can put ear in the ear at that stage, please don't put ear in the ear. Let them at that stage, let them have a freedom. Let them be children. Let the children be children. Take care of them as your child, not trying to force them into grown-ups. Let them be children, because all of those things are unnecessary pressure. So again, at this stage, they're doing a lot of things. Some of them are walking, but also on the contrary, please pay attention to your children. If they're not doing things that a regular or normal child should be doing at that age, then you need to seek either medical attention. If you go to your primary care doctor or you took them to the doctor, to that child's doctor, guess what happened? The child doctor will refer you. They will refer you either to a specialist or to a psychologist, to a counselor, to a therapist, or so forth. They will. The doctors will do the appropriate referral. But I would recommend you go carry them, let the doctor see them, because at this age, there are some things that they should be doing. There's some ways that they should be acting, such as at this age, the child should be able to, either working away from pull-ups, from diapers and things like that, I mean, those abnormal things that children at the age, start seeking help, basically. Let me say it that way. Start seeking help. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Once you notice those things, and it will be your responsibility to pay attention to as parents. It will be all of us responsible to pay attention because the children do not know better at that time. They don't know, some of them don't even know what's going on. So it'll be your responsibility. So I understand that you want to be hot, you want to be fly, you want to be sexy or whatever, but please give your children some attention. Pay attention. Don't let it go. Don't let your best friend or your neighbor or somebody come in the house before they pay attention to that and feel and say something wrong with your child or something going on that abnormal with your child. It should be your responsibility. I beg you, make time for that. So it's critically important also to allow the children to be children. Let them go play. They have a lot of energy. For the boys children at that time, testosterone, they're jumping all around. They're very, very hype. They're hype. They're the energy too much. Some girls will also they'll be moving around. We have to definitely work with them in that area. But let's move forward. So at this stage also, the brain now starts to develop. Now, this is very important. The brain starts to develop. At about age 3, the brain has grown, maybe to 80 or 90%. At age 3, can you imagine? They're preparing now for kindergarten, for some of who know kindergarten or preschool, some of them. And let me say this, in the same token too, while they're learning all these things, while they're behaving the way they're behaving, guess what? They'll be testing you. They'll be trying you with things that they can get away from the children. They will say things, they will do things. They'll be testing to see what they can get away with. Again, it'll be your responsibility as parents to guide and correct them. So at this stage, different parts of the brain's growing. Not only that it's growing, but they're also developing to the point where they're getting ready for school. They're learning new things. And at this stage, it's okay too, when you're home, it is okay, even though they haven't reached the age to go to preschool or whatever it is, it's okay to put, instead of putting all the dancing music and so forth, it's okay to start training their brain to, the ABC, 1, 2, 3, start getting them into that routine. Whether you put the ABC songs on or you put this one on, start getting them. Don't just keep the children, because again, the brain is expanding, they're learning, they're very receptive. On a bad side, let me say this to you too. If you are in violent relationship or domestic abuse, anything that's happening to you in our house as parents is impacting that child as well. Let me say it's very sad, but that's the fact. That is the reality. That is the reality. Anything that is happening to you as a parent in that child, in that house, and the child is around, and the child sees it, hears it, they can feel it, they know it, they might not be able to defend you, they might not be able to react, the child knows it. Secondly, as a parent at this stage also, stability is very important for your children. Please stop bouncing the children from babysitter to babysitter. Please, 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 and please. Stop bouncing them around. Please. They're developing different routines. It's important for them to be safe. It's important for them to have stability to grow. So at this stage, you just cannot be driving the children all because you want to go chill with your guys or you want to go out of state, you want to go chill with your boys. You have to take some responsibility, please. So at this stage, the brain is growing. Let's get into some of the things that's happening with the brain. The brain is not only growing, it's building. It's having connections. It's making a lot of huge connections. Between the age and age 5, the child is the brain is fully grown almost, because anything that is at 90% or so forth or higher, is fully reached. The other 10%, as we grow on, continue to add up. So at this stage, the brain continues to grow, it continues to develop, but it continues to make a lot of different connections, such as a positive interaction, the brain can respond to a negative interaction, the brain can respond to it because it was made to do that. So the brain is growing into negative and positive as well. So that's where some people get some of these bad vibes. Let me just be honest with you. Some people grew up from a domestic violent home. They grew up in an unstable place. Some people, at a very young age, they experience abandonment, lack. They suffer. One of the easiest ways I can make it is take a child from America and take a child from Liberia and put two of them down. They're both children, but you will see that the acute of the child from America is far harder than the one from Liberia. It's not the child from it's not that a child from Liberia is naturally dull or does not understand some things. It has a lot to do with the environment that that child grew up in. The things that happened to that child when we were growing up. Please don't say, oh, the children don't know, they don't know what's going on. They feel it, they know it, they sense it, especially at these 8 different stages. It will impact their lives. It will impact their lives. Some of you might not admit it in public or so forth. Some of the way you are acting, the insecurities you have, the behavioral, the way you carry yourselves, you are reacting. You are acting based on some of the things that happened to you at a very young age. You are acting based on that. And this is not to condemn anybody. This is not to look down on anybody. But these are just facts that people experience different trauma, different traumatic experiences at different stages of their life, and so forth. So moving fast forward, the children also need love. They will need the parents to spend time with them. They need to develop that loving relationship. Sometimes we see where people are very, they don't reciprocate love, they don't believe in that, and so forth. It's because of the environment that they grew up in. It's just relatable. Different skills, you need to pay attention to your children at this time, what they're good at. Some of them will like music and so forth. Some of them will be natural. They're artistic, they like arts, work, and so forth. So you need to start diving into all of that. But let's move fast forward. The brain started to make connections. First, in the first stage, we've seen here, we see how the brain was working. It started to develop, it started to make connections. There are natural things that are happening in the brain, but we see from a bigger picture that the brain starts to make all these connections. It also has adverse reaction, such as when you start doing positive things around it, again, they pick it up. When you expose them to poverty and violence and, lack of the basic necessity, it starts to affect them. It starts to impact their lives. It starts to make them to behave or to act or to respond a certain way. And in a little bit here, we get to the different parts of the brains that are affected and the learning and so forth, so you can understand. So again, big part of this stage of life of your child, big part of this stage of life is not to dress the child and go impress your friend for that day. It is the amount of care you give to them. It is the amount of attention, the amount of love, the amount of support, the amount of guidance that's provided for your children at this stage. It is critically important. It makes a difference in the child's life. And some of you, even as we're speaking now, you are probably thinking and retrospecting on some of the things that happened to you in whether at this stage of your life or at some other stage of your childhood life, not necessarily your adult or your pubertive life. You are reflecting on some of these things. And yes, they are reality. There will not no juju, there will not no medicine, nobody swear you. Some of you were even exposed to, like the little girl that we're talking about, it's all over in the news, exposed to sexual violence at that age. You really think that thing is going to go away? No, it's not going to go away. Her life will never be the same, whether you like it or not. Her life will never be the same. So yes. So now the question becomes, different aspects of the brain that is affected. So, and this is important because at this stage too, there are different aspects of the brain that is affected, that is impacted by some of these things. And we are going to get into that part right here, into different aspects of the brain that is affected. As you can see on your screen there, you will see the different parts of the brain. Even though it's smaller, the writing there is very, very small. You see these different parts of the brains are affected. So we will. I got to change something here. We'll take a very, very short musical break. Give me a second. We'll take a very short musical break for us to dive into this part. Please just hang on. Don't go nowhere. A very short musical break. Don't go nowhere.
You don't even know my story. You don't even know the story. Oh yeah, you know Samora, you post a new car on Facebook.
Well, short means short, so we had to take that short break, and we spend sometimes in this area because you have to understand this area. The first part I want you to look at on your screen is there is a big part on the very left, on the very right of your screen, on my side of the screen, where it says, even though the writing is not that big, it says left brain and right brain. So I want us to get into that part a little bit here, into the left and the right brain. So the left brain, some people are left brain, or however you want to term it, some people are right brain. So the left brain is responsible for logic, for reasoning, for information, for serial processing, for knowledge, and for structure. Again, the left brain is responsible for different things, while the right brain is responsible for something totally different as well. I'll say it again. The left brain, as you can see on your screen, is written in blue. It says left, and on the other hand, it says right. The left brain is responsible for logic, for reasoning, for information, learning, for detail, orientation, for serial processing, for knowledge, and for structure. On the other hand, the right brain is responsible for creativity. We have people say, well, this person is very creative and so forth. It's responsible for imagination, the right brain. So when you start to overthink, over-imagine things or so forth, you're using your right brain at that time. You're using your right brain at that time. So let's move on forward. The right brain is also responsible for processing. Parallel processing is responsible for understanding, for free flow of thoughts. So think about it now. It depends on you where you want to really invest, whether you're right or you're left. But you can have a balance. You can have a balance. Some people spend more time in the right brain. Some people spend less time in the left brain, vice versa. But you can have a balance. But for the sake of this conversation today, now that we know the basic about the left and the right brain, and you have the ability to use both, so that means if you've been using, so remember when we started this video, how the video that we introduced you to, how you talked about the brains are like muscles. If you don't lose them, you don't use them, you lose them. That's how the brain works. So if you're not using one part of your brain, or you're not using this brain, this other side, guess what? You will be losing it gradually as time goes by. You'll be losing it. And that's just the truth. If you decide to just focus on one side and forget about the other side, guess what? You could lose it as well. You could more like so lose it as well. So it's important for us to focus on both sides to have a balance. Now, in the small writings, there are 5 different little pictures that you see that look pink. One of them looks like somebody want to eat iron, or they're going to the gym. Another one, let me describe the different picture. The very first one on your file, left or whatever, it's termed as the frontal lobe. It shows the brain on the front part of your brain. That part we're getting to in a little deeper. But what the frontal lobe is responsible for reasoning, for teaching, and for problem solving. Again, I'll say it again. It's responsible for reasoning, for teaching, and for problem solving, the frontal lobe. So that means you have to also be careful with your children. You don't want to be slapping them in the head. You don't want to be hitting people in the front of the head or so forth. Another part also is the temporal lobe. The temporal lobe is responsible for emotions, behavior, and speeches or speech. Let's put it that way. It's responsible for that, the temporal lobe. The parietal lobe is responsible for senses and information. So when you hear people say your 5 senses or your 6 senses, however senses you want to determine, whatever you believe is up to you. But just your senses, your sense of smell, taste, feeling, and so forth. For some of us who experienced the coronavirus, where at some stage when you had a corona, your sense of taste left, your sense of smell. I experienced that. I couldn't smell, I couldn't taste when I had the coronavirus. Back in 2020, June of 2020, when I had the coronavirus, that time I think it was the very first one that came to COVID-19 itself, that very first strong variant that hit the world very hard. I couldn't smell. At some point I couldn't taste. It was weird. So that means my parietal lobe was affected to some extent. That part of my brain was affected. Another part of the brain is also the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe is responsible for direction, for recognition, and for processing. So let's take, for example, if you quit to forget, you can recognize things. It's simply saying that your occipital lobe was affected or is affected. Does it mean that you can train your brain? Yes, you can train your brain. There are a lot of different exercises. You can train the brain of the children. There are a lot of different exercises you can do to your brain to train your brain. For example, one of the early on exercises I had as a child growing up, or much younger, one of the exercises I had, and I think it's good, and I think parents should use, I'll give it to you very freely. My grandma used to, in articles, she would send you to the market. And when she sends us to the market, she will tell us to not write it down. The items that we're going to buy, don't write it down. You have to remember it and go there to the market and buy it and come back and present it, separate them exactly as she said. So initially, and here's the thing that she did that was unknown to me, but it made sense now. But then cell phones were not that much, so somebody will text you, whatever it is. If you went to the market and you bought the stuff and you came back and they were not the right things, or one thing was missing, you would go back. So it was not a sense of punishment. You leave the rest of the items there and you go back and get the one that you forgot about. It was not a sense of punishment. I believe it was a sense of training the brain. I didn't know. I was much younger. I did not know, but it was training my brain to remember, to store information. That part of our brain that is responsible to keep information, to store information. It helps. It helps a lot. It helps a lot. So it's okay for you to, give verbal instructions, and let people act on it. Try to refresh the mind and so forth. But let's get to the next conversation, because I think while we're talking about the brain, I think this is very. Let me go back. We'll stick on this page while we're talking about the developments of the brain and some of the things that can happen in the brain. We definitely need to talk. We definitely need to talk about this. So there are some parts, there are some structure of the brain that is very important that you need to know about. And you also need to be careful with the children as well. So different parts of the brain, we get on them very, the structure of it. The spinal cord, most of you know, it's connected from your back to your brain and so forth. And so that's why we have to be very careful about activities that we do and things that we do, because when that part is messed up, let's say people get spinal cord injury and so forth, there's a disconnect in the brain. It also prevents them. Most of the nurses or medical students would be good at this one, but from my end, from a psychological or mental standpoint, it prevents the flow of information. It restricts the flow of information up to the point that your body cannot respond. I've met young people who probably either got shot or they got into an accident or God forbid or so forth. I've met some of them who that certain part of the body don't function. Can you imagine from your waist down, you don't function, you don't feel no pain. If you're a man, your private part can stand. So that means what even when it comes for some of these therapeutic things that we have to do, whether that's speech or some of these psychological evaluation, they have these catheter on them that they drag around with. And some nurses might be able to relate to this. Sometimes they will have to go in and do something they call the straight catheter or straight cath. As just the abbreviation of that. And what that means is, at a certain time in a day or so forth, they have to go in and drain the pee that in that person, because that part of the body is not functioning. You will also see that sometimes people get into some of these accidents or some of these situations wherein they can't talk. They want to say the words can't come out because the connections in the brain is not working, it's not functioning. So all of these different things, they're very, very important for a child's growth. Let's take, for example, some of you have heard this word, and some of you have heard about the brain stem. Is the part of the brain also that the spinal cord relies on for message. It sends a message to the brain and so forth. In that brain stem, there are two major things are there. Your medulla is there, and the pons are there. Also, some of you have heard about the cerebellum. You have heard about the cerebrum. These are different parts of the brain structure and so forth. But again, long story short, you will have to understand that you have to protect your children, from brain injury, from falling down a certain way. Let's take, for example, that's why in this country, people tell the children when they're going to ride bike and other things to wear helmet. They're trying to protect them, because if the child falls a certain way or so forth, it can impact the brain. In as much as I don't want to go into, into other scientific part of it, because then even though I had to learn about it, but then my specialty or that's not the area I'm too strong in. But things like the thalamus is located in the center of the brain, and it sends out sensory motor information to the brain, and it coordinates sleep and awareness. So and as time goes by, the goal is, when we talk about alcohol, when we talk about drinking, you will see which part of your brain is affected, and we'll go deep into some of these things so you can understand. When you take these drugs, or when you take weed, or when you take vodka, Ciroc, shots, and all these different things, you will get to understand which part of the brain is affected and why it's affected. Now, mind you, the thalamus is responsible for sleep and waking up, to coordinate that part of your life. Just think about it. Just think about it. If your thalamus was messed up, whether about substance or so forth, it impacts even your sleep. So one of the way our thalamus can be messed up, not by taking any substance, is when you have situations like depression. You can't sleep. So you can't sleep. You are anxious. You're worried. You are scared. Whether that by relationship or about heartbreaks or whatever it is. So mind you, the children start to feel that at a very young age, when you have to go force that child on a babysitter that been beating that child all day. Think about how that child is fearful. So it impacts the sleep, it impacts the functions of the brain. You think about you, the grown up. Think about you as grown up as you are when your boyfriend leaves you, or vice versa. The girlfriend leaves you, or you have some kind of drama in your life, or some kind of noise in your life, that causes you to not be able to function. You can't get enough sleep. So at the end of the day, what we do is we try to work with you to prescribe things that will relax your muscles and your brain so that you can rest, because sleep is very important. When you don't have enough sleep, we'll talk about some of that as time goes by, as well as we talk about the grown-ups. When you don't have enough sleep, it has the ability to create hallucination. Not only hallucination, it creates something we also term as psychosis. We'll talk about some of those things in detail. It creates psychosis, it creates delusion, hallucination. Lack of sleep can cause that. And so the brain is not functioning as well at that point. So a lot of information, a lot to unpack, a lot to uncover, a lot to talk about, to be very honest. A lot to talk about, and a lot of good things that we can learn from here as parents, to be able to help ourselves, help our children, and sometimes you might need to go back into your past, and so forth, and work through things. Either you have to forgive yourselves, either you have to come to terms with reality that you were not the one that caused this for yourself, or so forth. But long story short, before we get to the very end of this, and then maybe we can provide you with the opportunity to call to ask questions or to make your point. I will get to the numbers here while we are doing this really quick. Long story short, to keep your children healthy, to make a difference, to make a difference, and to impact the lives of people, especially your children. We cannot afford to have all this stress and all these problems that maybe some of us experienced in our lifetime projected or brought onto our children. It's not a good place to be. It's not healthy. And these are some of the research that we did. The references, if you ever need them, let us know. Like we always tell you, we're more than welcome to bring it to you free of charge. Again, remember, this is free and free. Let me get the numbers out here. And the conference call number is free. When you call on, it's free. So you're not charged. That's the number to place your call. While you are doing that, I need to log on to that. So we'll take a quick break here, just 5 seconds. Let me log on to that really quick. Today I'm at 1. I don't know what Tell left me, but tell how to pay. So let's quick break, and then we'll be back right now. While you're placing your call, please. All right. Well, let's have you feel free to place your calls. If you have any question or any concern, you can call me. If you do have my number, for some of you do, feel free to call me. And we'll get on to whether that question, answer, or so forth. But we look forward to your calls. If you have any question or any concern, we're hoping to be on the hour mark here. Yes, we are. We are still in time. So, any question, any concern, we would like to hear from you. I will be taking these images down for now. All right. So back to us here. So any question, any concern? Yes, as you can see, I had to force it to come on. Didn't feel too well, but still don't feel too well. I'm not sure what's really going on, but we'll not give up. We'll be here. Yes, Sita, it's aphasia. That's the word I was looking for. You're right. Sita is aphasia. That was the right word I was looking for. So, any question, any concern about children and these stages and so forth? Because next week We are going to the next topic. We will be going to the next topic. We are progressing now, so you will see different changes. You'll start seeing now how some of these things that we inherited from back there. All right, somebody's calling. Yeah, caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from, please?
Hey, this is Ben. How are you?
Hey, this is Steve. How are you? What's up, man? I can give you a hard time, eh?
Yeah, you can give me a hard time, man. You can give me a hard time. All right, so thanks for the show and for what you're doing, you know. But there are a lot of stuff that I want us to look at together and see where you stand. So with regards to everything, there are some drawbacks with his theory. I listened to you how you know about the example that say you were to give an example of 2 5-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And then one was from Liberia.
Yes.
And one was from America.
Mm-hmm.
But mind you, when you look at those 2 kids and you compare them, and you compare their IQ as you know doing stuff, you will find out that if you're in America, you will find out that the child from America will be doing stuff that you say, oh, this child is very smart. This child, no words, no this, and no X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the child who was from Liberia, who was able to play mom, can use their teeth and then open a sugar cane, open a cup, and then you will see that child to be less experienced as to that child from America. Why I say do you know why everything is not considered people environment? Different environment as to why that child from Nigeria might be experienced in their own environment as opposed to the American environment.
Well, I think that's a good question. And the reason I'm thinking that's a good question is, and I'll answer the question, but the reason this is a good question is because Erik Erikson could not answer everything.
Right.
He could not. The same thing when you read a book or when you do a research, you might not be able to answer all of the questions. To the point that sometimes when you even go to do your discovery, guess what happened? You will find out that there are even some other things that will arise. There are some other questions that you didn't even consider that will come up. So he couldn't do anything. But somebody else helped us. And we'll get to that person, but I want to throw him because of what you said. Somebody else helped us to help understand the part that Erik Erikson did not address to some extent. Now, to your question about if a child opening sugarcane would mean with teeth or peeling sugarcane with teeth would mean that our child too is smart to some extent. Well, there are different kinds of smarts or intelligence. So in that case, the child who is peeling sugarcane with their teeth is not only risking the teeth, it's not only using a lot of energy and a lot of force, as opposed to using your brain to create a machine that can, or an instrument that can peel that sugarcane without you putting any force. So this guy who helped us understand some of the things is called Maslow. Maslow talked about the hierarchy of needs. So the reason that child in Liberia might not be thinking like the child in America to create a machine or to invent some kind of technology that will help reduce that risk is because that child, the physiological need has not been met. So they're still thinking down there. They're not thinking high. So you see, so when your physiological needs are met, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. It's part of our discussion at some point. We'll talk about it. We just don't want to mix it. When your physiological needs such as air, water, food, sleeping place, shelter, and maybe clothing, and other basic needs are met, guess what happens? You go up the ladder to start thinking bigger. to start thinking better. But when those physiological needs are not met, you're restricted. So let's take, for example, if you were to ask a child right now in Liberia, what do you want me to do for you? You know what they'll be thinking about? One of the first things they'll be thinking about? What they will eat, where they will stay. You see it? They're not thinking about the American children or other children who are in Western worlds or other parts of the world where the physiological needs are met that will tell you, okay, I want for you to put money in the bank for my college fund. I want for you to buy me a house. I want for you to invest in this. I want for so you see the difference. So that was why. Hold on. Hold on. That was why Eric Erickson considered this from a broader perspective that is applicable to almost every child. Whether you think about it, whether you pay attention to it or not, Eric Erickson considered it as that from a broader perspective. Yes. What's your next question? So we can move on, please.
All right. Thank you very much. I mean, you did a good job on that. So the other issue here that sometimes that I struggle with happens to do with when you come from a different culture, like some of us, and you happen to work in a different culture where people have different values and see different things. So you will expect for me, if I told a 7-year-old child and I say, hey, I am expecting our child to absolutely come to me. But yet I am a nurse and I am talking to I'm talking to a pediatric and the parent is there. And the parent is telling the child to come, and the child cannot come. The child is just so stubborn. Cannot do anything. And then, as a nurse, you are there standing and you are getting frustrated. And you're like, what is wrong with this child? Why the child can't listen to the parents? So, I mean, like, you must think that because this child has a parent here, this child will be able to put things under control, and they will not do it. So, in that case, what then do you do? Do you consider how do you draw those conflicts with your own culture, beliefs, and where you have to then just sit and then see and look at the child just like their parents? What then do you do?
Okay. Well, the truth about it is the question that you're asking is in two folds. Even there's one question.
I'm talking about the behavior of some of these kids.
Right. So like I said, it's in two folds. There is a cultural component. There is also a parental relationship component to that child. Let me tell you something. I dare not take my son to the doctor and he jumping around. First of all, I should just call him in. He understand it. He get a call. He understand the message. Or I should just look at him. We just have eye contact. He knows what's up. So the first part of that is it depends on how the child was raised, how the parents raised that child. Sometimes parents do not raise the children to be respectful or obedient or so forth, to listen to them. So guess what happened? They extended in the streets. So when you start to when you talk, the child talks, or when you tell the child to stop, the child refuses to stop, and you just lead the child to do everything, or you just, free will or whatever it is. Guess what happened? It starts from the home. It didn't just start at doctor's office. No, it didn't start there. It started from home. So you will see to some extent that some of the children even have respect for strangers than their own parents because they're comfortable, or they've reached a stage wherein they feel that the parent has no control over them. There is no structure. There is no organization. The parents don't set the rules. They don't set the guidelines for the children when the parents should be doing it. Some parents become children to their children instead of being parent and the children being children. So those things are individual, parental, how to bring up their children and so forth. But in terms of the culture, it seems as though African parents are more stricter. They have more, let me say that, and that's just my observation coming from an African parent. They have more rigorous restrictive rules and regulation and guidelines that the children have to follow, as opposed to in the Western world. Sometimes they give the children too much freedom and so forth. That's cultural. Now, let me say this: whether you're a nurse or you're not a nurse, please, when that child comes to you, to your working place, and the child bouncing around misbehaving, now you're able to go and beat that poor child, cover that poor child, yeah? Just call the man apart and tell him to take and care there. Don't put yourself inside. That the unwala. Don't put yourself inside before you get in problem. I'm begging you. When you get home and your children misbehave, you should correct your children. I beg you.
See, let me be honest, first, before I have not taken up general psychology, I used to always wonder why some of these things were happening until I got to actually learn it from at a higher level. Because sometimes, especially when I came here in this country, you said, why is it this child allowing, why is it this parents up here and allowing this child to just ruin them? Like, I would get so frustrated, I would get so angry, I'm like, oh, until sometimes then they would see, they especially my parents say, are you okay? And I'll say, oh yeah. Then I put my, same whole fake smile until I started, after time, and then you get to understand that, hey, that is not your role. Your role is to let the tell them that they can't do it, hey, tell the parents and then let them go.
Yes.
But it's a lot of learning.
Yes, it's a lot of learning. But here's a and since you brought that question before I let you go, and maybe look on see if there's another caller here. Before I let you go, let me say this. Most of you parents, you think that at 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old, 4 year old, 5 year old, 6, 7, 8, 9, you allow your children to just do anything, to just be loose and just go off. It comes back to haunt you. Because when they reach the age 16, 17, 18, where they are able to move out and they are adults, guess what? They start to put it in your face. I'll say this to you. I'm not saying go around and beat your children, but have some structure and organization for your children. These are the products that we see. These are some of the things that we see. And to some of you parents, I will say this to you too. Please don't violate your children. Don't violate their spaces and their privacy. If your children get their Facebook account and you get your own and you misbehave as a parent and they block you, don't use your children's Facebook. I know it sounds funny, but that's a fact. Don't do that. Respect your children as well. Guide them, tell them the right thing to do. It will help them. It will help you as parents. It will. It will. Listen, if you need to make sure if you tell your children, say, in this house, whether that boy or that girl, you need to be home 10 o'clock in the night, don't be bending the rules. If you say on Saturday you will clean your room, on Saturday they will clean the room. You are responsible for them. They're not responsible for you. I'm not saying treat your children bad or treat them as slaves, but have some structure and organize. Because how children work. How children work. That's how our brains were function. That's how we are made. People will guard us. If you don't do that, the street will help you to do it. The TV will help you to do it. Celebrities will help you to do it. Other people will help you to do it. And it will be detrimental. And in the end, you will be a loser. You will cry for your children because you suffer for your children or your child. So it's important, whether you're a single mom, whether you're a married parent, whether you're a dating parent, whatever title you have, listen, it's okay for you to put some structure and some organization. Now, if you don't have it yourself, you don't have no discipline, because some of you have no discipline when you leave your children. The children can do anything. They can do everything, to the point that some of you even leave to go to work. Your children have the audacity to bring a friend in your house. They're smoking your hookah and drinking all your liquor. When you come back, you're fighting. Mama, I can't let you go because you're laughing too much. I can't let you go.
And it's tough. And again, I will use another working example, because I think some of these things actually help when you can give them from a personal perspective. Like, again, like learned behavior. Like me as a child growing up, there are certain things that I learned, some of whom I like a man is supposed to be with a woman. Those are things that I learned, all right? Like a blind, I'm married to a woman. And I come to this country, and then I am a nurse, and then I get a patient that is something else. And then my manager was trying to force me to take care of this patient and get my new into this country. And I said, no, I can't do it. Not knowing all of the various, laws and stuff that I do this with this whole gate issue. So I am holding on to my African, belief that, hey, you know what? This is my culture. I can't do this. Well, the manager calls me to a conference and says, hey, this is it. This is America. These are humans. You have to look at these people beyond your own culture perspective, that these are humans and they can do whatever they want. So, Steve, that was a serious problem for me. It took time to retrain my mind, retrain my brain, the thing that I've learned as a baby. That, hey, you have to know these people, that they are who they want to be. Again, so, as a man, have to train yourself into a new environment. So all of these things, it's about accepting and learning new behavior. I can tell you, man, it was a struggle. But thank God that I was able to get away, that now I can see my business, no matter who they are, and still work with them. But it was a struggle. So just imagine, these babies who and just how you said it, that is the reason why it is important when kids are very young that you instill the best discipline in them, because that is the time where they can get the best of knowledge. But when they grow up, man, to change them can be very hard. Even up to this time, I have adjusted to certain things, but it's just still hard. But anyway, thanks for having me, and you can continue the show, man. I'm driving, that's why.
Thank you, Ben. Well, let's make one or two announcements and introduce you to the next topic. Next week we'll be back by the grace of God. We'll be talking about the third stage. Well, today I think we cover some things, and I want to thank the caller that was on. Talked about a lot of different things and a lot of different aspects of life. There are some things that, whether we agree with them or not, people have choices and so forth to make. But next week, the third stage that we will be talking about is initiative versus guilt. We'll be talking about it. Initiative versus guilt. We'll learn a lot of different things in that. Yes, to Benjamin, when you come from a different culture into a new culture, we have to do assimilation. You have to assimilate into that culture. In other words, you either learn that culture or, you develop, mango your way, or you make your way through to understand that culture and become part of that culture. In this culture, in the US, there are a lot of different things that we see. You don't necessarily have to accept everything. You don't necessarily have to agree with everything, but it's your responsibility to train, teach, inform, and educate your children. It is, and yourself. Like I give you a typical example. When I've introduced my sons to the fact that I even joke with them and ask them, what's the name of your girlfriend? Because I'm training them indirectly to understand that, that's That's what I wanted to know. People make choices, but when they reach the age to make that choice and that decision, let them make it. In the meantime, while they're with you, while they're your children, it's okay for you to educate them. It is part of your responsibility. It is. It is. It is part of your responsibility. So, yes, assimilation can be hard. It can be challenging. It requires a lot. It requires time, but it's doable. You can assimilate to different cultures. You don't have to agree with everything. There are a lot of things in this culture I don't agree with, but there are also a lot of things that I keep grounded on. For example, I came from Africa, not smoking and not drinking. I came in this country. There is nobody at this age and this stage that will make me no smoke or drink. I don't care what kind of session you can be having. I don't care who you are. It's not going to happen. So you see, whereas other people decided that we adjust their life to that lifestyle at this point of that's fine. It is their decision. Don't get me wrong, no disrespect. I don't fault you on your decision. But it's not going to happen. There have been people that have tried. I've been in places where people tried, but it will never happen. It will never happen. You know why? Because I was trained from a childhood that that's not going to happen. So I maintain that. So it's up to you, to get your children, to help your children. It's really, really up to you as parents, and the children will learn from all of these things. We encourage you to take care of yourself as well. Keep your mental state well. As I've always said, whatever you put in here, that whatever will come from out of here. Try your best. Stay away from noise and drama. Don't get me wrong, there will be people that will. And most important thing, keep your children away from it, please. Keep your children away from it. Please do keep your children away from it. And if there are other people that want to, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm looking at, people are bringing people's children into these foolish things that they are doing, then I will urge you to seek legal means. Seek the right means. Seek the right means. Adults are one thing, children are another thing. Seek the right means. There are a lot of legal means you can seek in this country. If someone try to fool with you, you don't even have to go and announce to them that you're seeking legal means. Just get the information, whatever you need to get, and seek the legal means. For implicating your children or your child, so forth, into whatever thing that they want to do. Protect your children as much as you can. Now, if you want to make yourself vulnerable, you want to be out there, that's fine, but protect your children. Because we all were children at some point. Today, guess what? Somehow we are assets to our parents. Your children will be asset to you at some point in your life, like it or not. If they choose to not be asset, that's fine. But they would. And sometimes you will sit and pat yourself on the back and say, yeah, I was a single mom, I was a single dad, but I did a good job. If you didn't do anything for yourself in this world, do a good job to take care of your children and raise your children the right way. Do that. Don't allow the mistakes that you made. Don't allow the issues that happen to your life to happen to the lives of your children. Don't do that. Protect your children as much as you can. Prioritize them. It speaks volume. It speaks volume. Protect your children as much as you can. It makes a huge difference. Those children, today or tomorrow, they will be an asset. People that will support you in protecting your children, in loving your children, it's okay to bring them around. People that will harm your children, that will be toxic. If your child ever comes and complains to you that man touch her or touch him, look into it. Don't brush it off. Look into it. Look into it. Look into it. Don't be safe. Don't be sorry, be safe. Be safe. Don't be sorry. That relationship can go. That man can go. Don't make your children vulnerable. Don't let anyone hurt your children. Don't expose your children. Some of you be doing all kind of things. You're doing all kind of funny little things, especially when the children are younger. Please don't do that. Some of you have the audacity. The children are right there, you're smoking. We'll talk about some of these things, how it affects the brain. We'll talk about them. You will see. You will see. You will see what are some of the things that I do. Protect your children as much as you can. Most importantly, love your children. Love your children. They're children. They're not a mistake. I was in pregnancy and not airborne disease. Whether you choose to have them, whether you chose at the time to have them or not, they're your children. Protect your children, love your children, and that'll be your responsibility. Next week, we'll be on for Initiative and Doubt. It's a total different age group. We'll talk about them and what to do, and you can see yourself in the mirror too next week. Initiative versus Doubt. You can see what can happen at that time. You will see your children not going to school. When you first started school, what happened? You will see how they act in school. And we'll also start diving into some of the different things, such as why people, what are at school or so forth. We'll talk about some of the things we talk about. We'll talk about race and culture and some of the diagnoses that your children get and you worry about it in school and so forth. We'll talk about some of them. I know two friends of mine who call me. Now I'll cut this short because we got 4 more minutes to be out of here. Two friends of mine, the females, one of them called me. That was a couple of years ago. The other one, that was most recent. One of them called me, oh, my boy child at school said, they won, and they can't keep him in school, and they'll have to suspend him when the principal, the teacher talking to the principal talking to the counselor, and the counselor said, he can't be in the school, and he's too much, and they're gonna put him on medication. And Steve, what should I do? Steve, what should I do? At first, I said, calm down. And I've been praying about it. Oh God. And then I said, listen. Then I'm praying thing. Slow down. I said, relax, slow down. Take a deep breath and relax. I said, the thing yet, that easy thing can be solved. I say, I want you to get a copy of the assessment that whether that the psychologist or the counselor or whoever did, send it to me. Oh, they just told me that would be the recommendation. I said, listen, leave all that Labrambo talking. We're talking different thing here. Leave that plenty of talking business. Get to the issue. So, long story short, first of all, it came from a bias standpoint. Let me tell you today, from a racial and a bias standpoint. So, this was my instruction to her, to seek another evaluation from somebody different for her child. Second of all, I told her, I said, when you go to school, go meet that therapist or that counselor, whoever it is. Tell them, say, whatever they wrote is not true. And your child will not get on medication. Don't accept that nonsense. I told her that. And the people, I said, lead that thing. Stop, Sonny, stop panicking. Sonny, go tell her that. Long story short, they went, they talk it. The young man's in school. The young man's doing okay. Next week, we'll tell you what are some of the things that can be happening to make the children of Allah, especially the boss children. What are you talking about? If you make a mistake and your child is not evaluated properly, or that thing, they put that label on your child, it can screw them up. You think the medication that you think the medication that I can get to these people or people can take, you think it's ready to correct the action? Okay. We'll talk about some of these things. Now, I'm not saying pass around and fight counselors and make noise. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying knowledge can expose you to power. And when you get power, then you can choose what to do with the power. So it's okay for you to learn. So some of who are Christian, the Bible saying, all you're getting, get understanding. So it's very okay for you to come and get understanding. So next we will talk about some of these things. But we're out. Our time is up. Have a good weekend. Tomorrow we'll be on. SKTV will be on. We will talk politics. A lot of things going on in the country. Today, no politics. More going to get very yeah. Tomorrow will be on the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 12 Central time. I hope to be much better by tonight. I still don't feel well. I still do not. But We still have to hold on to what we have to do. Tomorrow we'll be on by the grace of God. And Charles and Sip will be here. We'll be telling a lot of political things. I'll just be saying the bad, just watching. I will not talk later because I don't feel too well. But thank you so much for sticking and staying with us. Thank you. Share the show. Share the message. We are here. Every Friday we do our best to commit as much as we can. Good thing is free of charge. Come, get empowered, get some knowledge, and let's become better people in our community. Have a good night. Ciao, ciao. Good weekend. Stay out of trouble. We will not copyright to this song. I'm going to find my new friend. Send Tell about me today. Tell, I found a new friend.
Lump.
Find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. If you not want betrayal, find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. If you not want betrayal, find a friend like me.
Bombe oh, find a friend like me. Bombe jene oh, find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. Find a friend like me.
Hey, see bestie. Your bestie not sweet like my bestie. Your bestie da la bestie. Find a friend like me.
I say, see bestie, bestie wanting to have